What's going on, guys? It's your boy Anthony back with another edition of The Fourth Man, and super excited for today's episode. We have 1 week under our belts. Got my guy Jordan Daly from Daly Media back with us today. Jordan, how you doing, man?
Doing great. It's always fun coming back on here and talking about the BIG3, especially with the great start to the season we got. So I'm excited for this.
Yeah, the start was, we know it's going to get better every year. It's a startup league, so only better things to come. But opening weekend was top tier, like double what they did, the years prior. So super excited to get into this episode as well. I'm going to break down week one, kind of go through our pretenders and contenders, biggest surprises, and then we'll kind of get into week two with a interview on the back end from someone who hit a game winner from the week one. Before we get into all that, just want to make sure that if you're not already following the show, it's at Fourth Man Pod on all social media. You can watch the show visually on YouTube, youtube.com/fourthmanpod. And then for those of you listening on Dash Radio and the Nothing But Net channel on Monday or Saturday, we appreciate you guys as always. Lots of good interviews, mostly be putting up there sometimes because the shows run a little bit longer than the time we're allotted. But nonetheless, the interview is probably the more exciting part of the show. We're just here to give you our recap and analysis based off, what we've seen and being fans of the league for a long time and being in this community for a long time as well. So, Jordan, let's jump into it. You were actually at the games in Chicago. You got to see these games up close and personal. Give me your takeaway just for week one in general, overall, what your thoughts were around it.
A lot of people surprised me. It's tough with the BIG3 when you get a lot of big names coming in and a lot of new names coming in. You don't know how they're going to adjust to the league because the BIG3 is not the NBA. It's not normal basketball. It's a completely different game. It's a lot more physical. So you never really know how some of these guys are going to adjust and adapt to it. And almost everyone adjusted and adapted perfectly. Like Michael Beasley, for example. I was watching that game in the locker room with the Ghost Ballers and just their reactions every time this man was hitting a shot, or like every time, especially that interview he had with Scal. Confidence. I love it. I love it. Everyone's adjusting really well, and it's making the league extremely fun to watch. I know I got some of my friends to watch it for the first time this year, and I know I got them hooked on it as well. So it was a great opening week. You couldn't really ask for anything better in terms of the competition.
Bro, that's so funny you say that. I've been doing the same thing with my friends. Have you seen the Michael Beasley Gerald Green game? Have you seen the finish to Ghost Ballers? Pretty much had an overtime game already.
Yeah,
it was incredible. I was the same way as you were with the Ghost Ballers in terms of Michael Beasley hitting his first 7 shots. I was giddy, and I was almost is this a bad thing for the league that he's coming in and dominating? But
yeah, he wasn't
Gary Payton adjusted a little bit, made sure he was come on, it's like a physical league, get up bottom, because Bivouac is full of newer guys outside of Will Bynum. So
yeah,
I think once they realized, hey, we can be a little bit more physical, they did adjust. But man, he still looked really, really good.
Yeah, Bivouac's one of those teams with a lot of new names on it too. So I think that's just an adjustment game, and that's another thing that was going around behind the scenes of the BIG3 is that Bivouac's a good team this year and not to sleep on them. So
they are a really good team. I can't believe Corey Brewer dropped to the second round. Remember, we had him going number 1 overall, which Glen Rice Jr. definitely made it known that he is definitely the number 1 pick and worthy of it. But Corey Brewer probably should have been somewhere in that top 5. Just saying. Okay, let's start with the games in general. I want to start we won't go too in depth. Obviously, by this point, everyone's been able to at least probably digest them or at least watch them on YouTube to some extent. But I just want to kind of go through the Saturday games first. That was probably the best round of games that we've had maybe ever, but definitely for a week 1 opener. We saw Triplets beat Trilogy, take down the champions. Obviously saw the Threes Company and Bivouac game go down to the wire. And then, like I alluded to, we saw Ghost Ballers and the Three-Headed Monsters essentially go to overtime. Kevin Murphy hits a ridiculous shot, but Ghost Ballers prevails nonetheless. Which game, were you most excited about? Excited you the most? And out of those 6 teams, which one do you kind of have your eye on a little bit more heading into, the rest of the season?
Are we just talking about the Saturday games right now?
Yeah, just the Saturday games.
Just the Saturday games. Trilogy. I think Trilogy, they had a tough matchup week 1. I think we need to just give them time to adjust a little bit. They lost their number 1 guy in Jarrett Jack. That's kind of who the ball ran through last season. They are the comeback champions. They won last year. I think they just need some time to kind of adjust to that. They added an asset in Earl Clark, who was outstanding last year at Tri-State. So I think we just need to give them a little bit of time, but people cannot be sleeping on them just because they lost week 1.
Yeah, they looked a lot different. I thought they were going to be a lot better. Actually, I thought they were going to beat Triplets, but
so did I.
Yeah, Joe Johnson came out he came out with a little bit more of a chip on his shoulder. He's kind of talking. He's usually like, a little quieter, but
He has some
was kinda
competition this
talking.
year. Yeah, he has some competition this year. So he's got to step up, which he clearly did. So
Yeah, he's coming out the previews to go. I'll say that I'm most surprised out of those 6 teams about 300 Monsters. I really thought they were going to take a huge step back because they lost Reggie Evans. Like, we know how pivotal he is to their team. And even with like the game Jonathan Simmons had, like, very subpar game, like very average. He's probably their biggest addition. But if last year told you anything, like, Kevin Murphy is the truth. He's the real deal. He carried that team all the way to the end, almost to a victory after they were down, 11, 13 points for most of the game. And like, I'm just so impressed by like what Murphy brings to the table every time, and like can't believe like he's still not on a team.
And I'll tell you a behind the scenes story about Kevin Murphy too, with Mike. You know how energetic Mike is, and I was watching the game from the sideline, and Mike's one of those people that if there's a dirty call or if there's like a dirty play, like, he's gonna let you know about it. And there was one where he got fouled pretty hard, and I saw him bounce back up and run over, and Kevin Murphy was on the ground too, and I see him get up and like will stand over Kevin Murphy. I was like, something's about to go down, and he just helps up Kevin Murphy. And I asked him about it later, and he was like, "Nah, Kevin Murphy's a dog. I respect him." He just that was funny.
There's another point in that game too where he accidentally, like, he runs into a screen, hits Kevin Murphy in the nose, and like, just you saw a lot of respect from there too, which MT will call it as he sees it. And also, we're not talking enough about Mike Taylor coming back. Obviously, a season-ending injury last year, but 18.6 rebounds. Looked like the Mike Taylor of old, if not better. So that was really encouraging to see for Ghost Ballers. They have a really good team as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, let's talk about the Sunday games real quickly. These games weren't as good, but then two of the games were blowouts, but two of those teams that got blown out didn't have their captain or their best player in Tri-State and Ball Hog. So obviously doesn't tell the full story there. Any teams that you were like intrigued by or encouraged by as like, oh yeah, like, because I feel like, I guess I should preface this first. I feel like the Saturday games were most of the teams that we could envision seeing in the top 6 for sure.
Yep.
The Sunday games, I feel like there's definitely some teams that we could see, but also too, a lot of those teams from last year didn't do so well. But any teams within there that really encouraged you from the Sunday games that you saw?
Yeah, definitely. The team that stood out to me the most all weekend, and that's why I had to clarify on that last one, is Power. So I know they played against Tri-State, and Tri-State didn't have Jason Richardson. But regardless, you got to give props to how Power played. Especially TJ Cline. That he surprised me the most out of anyone in the Big 3 games this weekend. I definitely doubted that pick, and I've learned I will never again doubt Nancy Lieberman.
You can't.
No. And no, he came out and dominated. He looked really, really good. Glen Rice looked really good. He was one of the names on my personal draft board that I had to kind of keep quiet a little bit. I know some teams were looking at him later on, but no one really expected him to go number 1 overall. But he played outstanding too, and he just knows how to score. So Power definitely scares me moving forward. I think they're a really good team, and that surprised me losing Doosan. So.
Yeah, 100%. It also surprised me because like Katina only had 4 points in the game, which I understand he's getting older, but he's looked really good in off-season workouts.
Yeah.
But yeah, TJ Cline, like, there's a lot of times throughout the weekends where we saw guys getting a rebound and it would hit the rim, like the ball would hit the rim, and they would just like take it outside of the 3-point line because they're still adjusting to the game. TJ Cline like made every hustle basket that you could, made every hustle play, and like, him and Glen Rice really won them that game. Like, they had 38 of the 50 points that they scored. Like, it was pretty incredible to see them, and almost maybe an overreaction, but like maybe Power won that draft. I don't know. Maybe that's early to say, but
it's tough. I think TJ Kline's not getting the respect he deserves yet, but I think if he keeps playing like he will, he's gonna get it.
Yeah, I was very intrigued the whole weekend, or entering the weekend, about this team, and I'm very encouraged by like what I saw. But that's Aliens, and they were missing a player. Like, to see how Carlos Lasamanes came in and made the transition from FIBA to Big 3, and then right now he's actually playing FIBA ball over back in Europe. So like to make that transition and make it look so easy, and just like kind of their flow of the offense in addition to what they have with Deshaun Stevens. Really impressed by that. Deshaun is who he is. He's just picking up from where he is last year, and I'm excited to see, Thomas Ivasev join that team and see how see how that team works. Like that's a really interesting team to me. I don't know. Like I think enemies did a good job adjusting later, but that's a really tough team, and I'm excited to see them like this weekend. You know how it all pans out because you can tell that's just a very very skilled, very expert, expertise, experienced team that
especially
plays a
with
lot
three
of
on
3-on-3.
three.
Yeah, exactly. So I was very impressed by them as well.
Yes.
Yeah, and so really good week one game. Are you concerned at all by Tri-State and Ball Hogs? Like, did either of those teams, did you look at it and say like, ooh, even if they had Leandro or even if they had Jason Richardson, like they still like a team that might take a step back?
That's tough. I really like Tri-State, but I think losing Earl Clark was major.
Mm-hmm.
So I really do hope that they can bounce back. I really like Justin Detman's game. I like all of those guys. It may be tough to bounce back a little bit losing Earl Clark. I think he was a great talent. So I think they're going to need to kind of lean heavily on some of those guys they drafted as well to kind of step up and make impacts right away.
Yeah, no doubt. I like DeJuan Summers a lot too, but they definitely need Jay Rich. It's going to be tough to see. I think that'll tell a lot more. And I think they're playing Three's Company this week. So that's a tough, like, 2-week start potentially. But hey, you never know what could happen in this league for sure. Last thing I'll add, and then we'll just kind of add, well, I guess it kind of segues into what we're discussing here. I was going to ask you kind of about your pretenders and your contenders, but I ultimately want to start with, out of all the teams that are winless at the moment, any team that you look at and say, if I had to put a bet on any 0-1 team from week one, that team's going to make the playoffs. Kind of tough. Just like looking at
there's three teams that started winless that I could easily see in the playoffs, and that's Three-Headed Monsters, Trilogy, and Ball Hogs. I think they can all find a way to the playoffs. They're all pretty experienced. They know what it takes to get there. And they were just tough losses. I mean, Trilogy lost by 6 to ISO Joe. So I mean, that's not crazy to think of. Three-Headed Monsters lost in a nail biter of a game. They were still the first one to score 50 in that one. And then Ball Hogs was without their best player. So I think all three of those teams have a chance to make those playoffs.
I made a bold prediction last year that Bivouac was the second best team. This is when they still had everybody and they weren't falling apart week by week. Even week one, they didn't really look that good. So it was, my mistake. I made a huge error there, but I'd be really shocked if they didn't make the playoffs this year after that first performance. They ran into a really good team, but Bivouac's a really good team in themselves. And like Gerald Green, there's a reason like he's an MVP contender out the gates. Like he's that good. I think this team only gets better. I'm not really sure why Will Bynum didn't play as much. I don't know if it was like Gary Payton didn't want him to, or there's an injury. Like he suited up for him, right? Like he was there on the bench the whole game, but he didn't play. I was very intrigued by that.
Bivouac, I can tell you from behind the scenes, I know a lot of the other teams are respecting them. I know a lot of the other teams respect the players and the talent on that team. So Bivouac's definitely not going to repeat of last season of going winless. That's definitely a team you got to keep on your radar for now, I think.
Yeah, they're playing enemies, so it should be an interesting matchup for sure. All right. That being said, give me your biggest overreaction from the first week here. Maybe you have a couple. You don't have to pinpoint one.
I don't even know if I'd call it an overreaction. Killer threes are good, man. Killer threes are really, really good, and they hit on all their draft picks. And another example of this, I was sitting with Mike watching that game on I think it was Sunday, and I mean, I can tell you now, I guess, that one of the players he really wanted to draft was Dominique Johnson. He was very, very high on Dominique Johnson. He's like, I've played with this guy. This guy can shoot. I like him a lot. We need to add him. And he kind of fell in the draft. And then we were watching this game, and every time Dominique would hit a shot, which happened a lot, Mike would just look at me and smile, and I'd be like, all right, you call it that one. So killer threes, I think they hit on all their draft picks. KJ McDaniels too. They got their recurring three in Frank, Dante, and Josh. That's a team to watch out for. That's a very scary team.
Yeah, that Dominique Johnson looked really good. Like he was like really heating up towards the end of that game, and he just ran away with it. Like that's an interesting team if it's Dominique Johnson rather than like Jermaine or Darnell. Like that's pretty crazy to think about. Like that could have been a possibility because he looked really good. Killer Three's obviously going to be a really good team, but like you said, they hit on all their draft picks. I think on my end, it's tough. It's because everything almost seems so obvious. Like where in like years past, like maybe that's not the case right out of week one. There's like a couple things that like intrigue me. I'm a little concerned about enemies once again, like being a good team. I think they have really good players. I just don't know if like their style is necessarily, working for what they're trying to accomplish. Like they play so much one-on-one ball.
Yeah, I don't think they mesh well together as a team. Like individually, they're all really good players, but yeah, I don't know if like the chemistry is quite there.
Yeah, it's I don't get it. Like Isaiah Austin and Elijah Stewart are really good players. Like Seth Henry looks like he's going to be a really good player.
Yeah,
but I feel like it's just a lot of like isolation ball. Who can get a basket for us this possession? And then like defensively, like started off really bad, looked really good at the end. But yeah, I don't know. So I would say that's probably, I'll give you like 3 overreactions here. I'm going to say 1, enemies ends up being the worst team in the league this year.
Okay.
2, I think Michael Beasley's the MVP. And I've been saying that even before Michael Beasley joined the league. Like if he joined the league, I said he's going to be the MVP. So I'm going to stick with that. I think got a little bit of a proof point there now after 1 week. And then my third thing, looking at the 4 teams that have never made the playoffs out of this 12-team league, it's Ball Hogs, Aliens, Enemies, and Bivouac. I say 2 of the 4 are going to make the playoffs based off week 1 performances.
That's definitely doable too. That's doable.
I'm going to say, I'll be bold here. I think 2 of the 4 are going to make it. I'm going to say Aliens and I'm going to say Bivouac make the playoffs this year. I'm going to say they both kind of squeak in. But those are probably my, biggest overreaction from week 1, hoping they stay true, because I feel like every team needs to experience the playoffs at least once to get that under our belts, after 5 seasons in the league.
Yeah. And I'm curious too, because like I said, and I say this on Twitter every year before the Big 3 starts, is that people need to follow you because you have the best grasp on this league. What is your take on triplets overall this season?
Yeah, I think they're going to be a playoff team still, and I think it's because of Joe. Like Joe is that guy. But I said that when they added Jeremy Pargo, their offense just became that much more lethal. Like it really did. Like I think something that happened down the stretch last year when triplets was kind of falling off toward the end, the last game of the year in the playoffs, it was like, I don't want to say Joe was necessarily figured out, but he didn't have enough help offensively. He had a lot of guys that couldn't necessarily create their own shots. You had your Jamario Moons, your Allen Andersons, create their own shots better than I can, obviously, and like probably done a lot better than a lot of basketball players. But like where they were at as a team, it almost seemed like they had figured out that team at that point. Like that time with that team had kind of run up.
Yeah.
So adding Jeremy Pargo, someone who's, if you're doubling Joe, you can kick it out to him. He's either going to catch and score, or he's going to be able to make a play off the dribble. Goes a long way. And you know what else is really surprising? Like Ryan Hollins gets in a lot of foul trouble, but the amount of love, or like how hot of a commodity he is throughout the league. Like I've heard so many teams be like, oh yeah, I was going to get Ryan Hollins. It's insane. But I guess it makes sense in the sense that like, he might not be like a master of one, but he's a jack of all trades at everything. And he's big, right? He's a sizable guy.
Yeah.
So being able to like, just kind of throw up some lobs to him, where like, I think Avery Johnson made the point on the broadcast, but being able to throw up some lobs to a tall guy where you couldn't necessarily do that with someone like Al Jefferson, I think goes a long way, especially for Joe, who's a really good facilitator as well as a scorer. And then, yeah, Alonzo G, I think he's a nice ad for them too. So overall, what I'm saying, like, I think triplets is still going to be a top seed this year. Do I think that they go all the way? I don't know. Like that's really hard to say. I think they're still a playoff team though.
Okay. That's fair.
Yeah. It's so hard because like the teams are so good this year. Like I'm even thinking of like, I was trying to put together a power ranking and I was like, putting a team in the bottom 4 seems unfair right now. Like every team was so good. And I wish every team was at full strength to be able to see that. Like, a little bit better, but every team is really good. Like I think that we're going to have like another battle of like top 8 teams, and the bottom 4 teams that necessarily aren't in the hunt is more so just kind of a bad luck of the draw or injuries occur or whatever the case may be. So perfect. That being said, let's look ahead to week 2 back in Chicago for the games. Got a lot of exciting week 2 matchups. 2 of the games will be on CBS. The rest will be on DAZN, Fire, and YouTube. So 2 games on Saturdays, a Three's Company, Tri-State, and then Aliens and Triplets, I believe, are the ones on CBS that start at 1 p.m. And then Ball Hogs and Ghost Ballers is on YouTube, along with the rest of the games, which are on Sunday. Let's start with the Saturday games. Are there any games that you're most excited for, or which game are you most excited for on Saturday in week 2?
Just because of Beasley, I'm gonna say Three's Company again. I want to see if he can do that again. Because what he showed in week 1 was just pure domination and incredible. So I want to see that again. And obviously, of course, game 3, Ghost Ballers, Ball Hogs. You already know.
Yeah, no, I knew that was kind of a given answer there, but I'm surprised you said Beasley first. Okay, so you showing a little objectivity there. I think for me, I'm still curious about Aliens and going against a really good team in Triplets. Like, how good is this team? Like I said, I think Enemies might be one of the worst teams, but Aliens did look really good. I think Bullet has proven that he's one of the better shooters in this league. Yeah, he's got one of his boys in there, and then he's got one of the most athletic bigs in there. And then they're adding another one of Doosan's boys this week. So I'm curious to see how they stack up against a really good Triplets team. And on the flip side, like Triplets kind of being a powerhouse of the big 3, like how well do they stack up against all these 3-on-3, I don't want to say legends, but, the best at the sport of 3-on-3 overseas, like how do they stack against them? Like, I think that would be a really interesting matchup. On Sunday, we have a lot of good games as well. This Big 3 website keeps changing to week 1. It wants me to stay in week 1. I want to go to week 2. So we got Power, Three-Headed Monsters, Trilogy, Killer Threes, and Bivouac and Enemies. Any game that you're kind of circling your calendar for?
I'm excited for game 3, Killer Threes Trilogy. I think that's going to be a great game. I'm also excited for game 1, which is Power, Three-Headed Monsters. I want to see if Power can kind of repeat that same momentum they have coming out of week 1, I guess. I want to see how TJ Cline and Glen do against some bigger vets than Three-Headed Monsters. I think those are both going to be great games. I also want to see, I'm just going to name all of them, I guess, game 2 in Bivouac. Like I said, I think Bivouac is a team that is going to be serious this season. So I'm excited to see them kind of bounce back in week 2.
Dude, it's hard not to say all of them. Like,
yeah, there's only 3. So it's like,
yeah, well, not only that, like the teams are just so good. Like, they're so much better. Like, obviously, like we knew the talent influx was here, but like I didn't know it would be like this level. Like, not at all.
It's also tough coming after only 1 week because you don't know, like, okay, who's actually going to be keeping with that every week and who kind of just had like everything go their way in week 1. So obviously, as a fan's perspective, we're hoping they're going to be putting that effort out and dominating like that every week because it makes the league better. So that's kind of what I'm hoping for going into week 2.
Yeah, I wanted to try to name some contenders and pretenders, but like you said, it's a little tough after 1 week. I feel like you got to wait at week 2, week 3 at least to like really dissect like, okay, hey, like this team is getting really lucky and they're winning, or this team's getting unlucky and they're losing a lot. So yeah, I feel that as well. I'm pretty excited for all the games as well, obviously, but I think Power and Three-Headed Monsters is an interesting matchup. Historically, like 2 of the best teams in this league, like before last year, both those teams have made the playoffs every year. They both had for the most part, had the same coaches that have helped them get there, regardless of the players. Kind of have the same structure in terms of the type of players that they've had for multiple years. And now they make a lot of changes to their teams. One team's looking to be 2-0, and the other team's looking to be 0-2. And that 0-2 hole is pretty deadly, as we saw with Killer Threes last year, kind of getting stuck in that. So I think that's a game I got my eye on as well. And I mean, that same sentiment, Trilogy could be 0-2. That would be insane. But thinking about, which would be an interesting trend, which I'm kind of like keeping my eye on just a little bit as like a sidebar interest of Trilogy. The first year they won it, they didn't lose a game. The second year that the league had, they didn't do so well. So I wonder if that's like a trend, like kind of that championship hangover,
Yeah.
But it should be interesting to see. Cool. Last thing I want to ask is outside of I guess which player really stuck out to you? Like which one outside of like TJ Cline, because I know that you said that one really shocked you, but like was there any player that like came in like other than TJ Cline that kind of shocked you in terms of how their game was, or like impressed you or intrigued you, like kind of just a little bit of everything that you're like, I'm going to keep my eye on them regardless of which game I'm watching?
Yeah. I know you're gonna call me biased here, but I swear I'm not. Jermaine Taylor.
That's a good one though.
Really, really good. I don't think he's getting enough credit this week. I think his ability to come in off the bench and, be able to give Mike Taylor a breather, let Ricky Davis sit for a while, like that's something they didn't have in the past few seasons. So I think that's really major now that Ghost Ballers have solidified a strong bench. And it's interesting how they can kind of be able to tweak their starting lineup each week because of that. So I think adding Jermaine Taylor and even Darnell Jackson, like I think they really did something this season by kind of solidifying their bench.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point, because JT is someone that was really coming on as a player in this league and then had the injury. And for him to come in, make some big shots off the bench and have some interesting lineups, like I think that makes Ghost Ballers a really dangerous team.
Yeah.
I think I already mentioned earlier, I'm pretty impressed by Corey Brewer, what he did. Can't believe he went 18th or 19th overall in the second round. Like I think he really showed out. Like looked like he's still in like NBA shape. And excited to see how that Big Flat team ends up being. Like they went to, it was like him, Gerald Green, and Jeff Ayers like most of the game. I feel like toward the end, like they had like Diagu play a little bit at the beginning and start, and then have Will Bynum play. So I'm interested to see like how that team like shakes up and goes about their rosters. And also interested to see too, like I think it's like after 3 weeks, but like which team makes a move first, like which team is like willing to go into the deep ass draft pool and like reach for someone and try to grab somebody before it's too late. Like kind of going through my Instagram feed yesterday, I came across Ty Lawson. I'm like, oh yeah, he's not playing because he didn't get drafted. Like that's nuts, but he could,
Draft pool is so loaded, man. We've had this conversation before, but they can make a whole expansion team with just guys that were undrafted, and I think they'd be competitive at that too.
Yeah, 100%. So should be another exciting week for week 2. That's all I have on this half of the episode. Jordan, I appreciate you joining me on today's episode. Before we jump off today and jump off here and get to the interview with TJ Cline, who's today's guest that we have on the show today. Anything you want to plug here? Anything that you got going on? Where can people find what you're doing work-wise for the Big 3?
Yeah, right now it's at Daly Media LLC on Instagram. I rep a few of the players in the Big 3, so I kind of help them with a bunch of stuff. So check that out, and then as well as the Underdogs Podcast with Ghost Ballers' own Mike Taylor and Craig Smith, who is ready to go in that draft pool for anyone that does feel like they need to add someone. He's been staying ready, and that's available on all platforms as well.
Dope. Yeah, you should definitely check out that podcast. A lot of really good guests on there, including a lot of Big 3 guests. So definitely should check that out if you haven't already. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in to this half of the episode, and let's get to our interview with TJ Cline. Cool. Today, we're excited to welcome on another pro hooper with a ton of overseas experience, a ton of experience in general. Recently played in the G League for the Capital City Go-Go. He's one of the newest member of Power, TJ Cline. Thanks again for joining the show, and welcome.
Thanks for having me, bro. I've seen the podcast for a little bit, and I'm a fan, so I appreciate it.
Thanks for the support. Really appreciate it, especially you as now a player, but even before then would have been much appreciated because I've seen you on the sidelines alongside your mom. But let me just start here. Like, I got to say, like, what a debut. First off, congrats on being drafted and then on the win as well. Like, Power looks like a contender, one of the front runners of the playoffs once again. I mean, how are you feeling just after a couple of days just to be able to digest and everything and knowing that your team's 1-0?
I mean, it's cool. It's a little strange. It's different than I'm used to, like playing overseas or playing in the G League. You're only playing 2 or 3 games a week, or at least minimum of 2. And so you kind of have to focus on the next team rather quick. But like you said, you get some time to digest the game and kind of look back and watch film. And obviously it's a shorter game, so you can watch film, watch stuff a lot more and more, and really get a feel for how the game went. And I thought, as a team, we went to our strengths. Glen's a great one-on-one player, and we let him do his thing, and he was as advertised. And Royce was obviously just kind of the X factor in rebounding, assists, kind of drawing double teams with size, and that allowed me to have some open shots. And Kat and Nick did their thing too. So I think we're in the right direction. But it definitely felt good to get the first one under my belt. Like everybody always says, it's so physical. Just it's different playing 3-on-3, and you don't really, you can't really get a grasp until you've played. And to get that first game and for it to go really well, it was a blessing. And now we just got to build on it. You got a week to work on what what we kind of need to tune up for the next game.
Yeah, no doubt. Couldn't have said it better myself. And just like watching this league for a long time, one of the best opening weekends I've ever seen in this league. Obviously, that's expected with the league to get better and better as a young league. But I know scouts will do this, but just your comfortability in the game was very easily recognizable from our end, like a spectator's view. Like you just look very comfortable and we're able to adjust to the rules and the play style. But definitely want to touch on that. I think I'd be remiss if I didn't talk a little bit about your career pre-BIG3, and even just since your mom now coach, or I don't know what you call her, mom, coach, whatever the case may be, but since she's even joined the league, I want to talk just a little recently. You've had a nice career overseas and spent a lot of time in Israel. Is there something you enjoy about playing over there, on the court or off the court, specifically Israel, that draws you back to playing in leagues over there?
Israel's been home away from home since I've been overseas. I went there halfway through my first year and spent the next 2 years there, went to Italy, and then came back. And I have my Israeli passport, so I played for the national team out there. I played for a lot of the top clubs in Israel, so I just have a great feel, and it's very Americanized, the culture. It's very, I have a lot of friends out there, some family, and I don't know, it's just a home away from home. So I've gotten a chance over the last 2 years to explore some different places outside, like Italy and Spain. But yeah, something always brings me back to Israel, and it's just the beaches and the people and the culture, and there's nothing like it.
Yeah, Italy and Spain is pretty cool too. I'm actually going to Italy in a couple of weeks, so I'm pretty stoked. I've never been there, but I lived in Spain for a little bit, and that's a nice little spot too. But I've never been to Israel, so I can't compare. But it sounds like you've really been able to make a home over there. And for a lot of guys that come on here and that are a part of the BIG3 now, have overseas experience, and sometimes it's hard to find a home. So it's cool that you've been able to do that within the country of Israel. And then most recently you played with the Capital City Go-Go. It's a little bit of a broader question, but I kind of just want to see where your mind goes first. What do you feel like were the biggest takeaways, playing in the G League and I guess the second half of kind of your season, because you were already playing overseas prior to that, but what were some of your biggest takeaways, after the G League season finished?
Just for me, it was just takeaways are always for me just experience, and the experience to get to play against guys that are that athletic. That probably was the highest level of that or the Euro League, but it's the highest level of athleticism that I've faced as not playing in the NBA. Just guys are freak athletes. You're playing first round draft picks every night because they're sent down, or second round guys, or this, that, the third. And I don't know, that probably was the biggest adjustment, and learning how to use your fakes and kind of play on a bigger court, which obviously has to translate to the BIG3.
Sure.
With the 3-point line spaced out. When it's spaced out, it's a huge difference. So I think learning how to adjust, because overseas is a little bit closer, and there's no defensive 3 seconds, so that lane is pretty clogged overseas. So in the G League, just learning how to play, 2-9, having to get out of the paint, get back, different ball screen. It's just it's a kind of a different game. So it kind of, I think, even just polished me even more with a different style of basketball that I was used to in college, and when I went overseas was a different game. But that was what I'd take away, just the athleticism and just the spacing.
Yeah, and it's cool. I think it's been good for you, especially now as you play in another league where you're adjusting to the rules and the leagues. You'll just be able to kind of be audible ready to be on the fly, regardless of what the rules and adjustments are. But yeah, really cool to see like, where your career's at now, since coming from college and now you're playing in the big three. Like, it's funny because like most of the time, the question I always want to ask is, how'd you hear about the big three? How'd you hear about the opportunity? Like, no need to ask you that question, but you're kind of already involved in this league in a sense because you were essentially kind of a scout for Power. She mentioned last year that, like one thing I asked was like, I don't know if I asked her this last year. She came on the show maybe a couple of years ago, but I know that somewhere she had mentioned that her recommendation on drafting guys like Dusan and Joe were based off, kind of your experience playing overseas. And I know Joe plays a lot in Israel. What are those conversations like in terms of like leading up to the draft? Like, is she asking a lot of your input on certain guys in the draft pool, or is it more so like, hey, you should tell this guy to join the draft pool and draft him because dude's got game, he'd help out your team?
I think it's more so like, so for example, this year, so last year I knew Joe. I played with Joe. He played for my mom in the G League when I was in high school. So we worked out together in high school and stuff like that. And then my first team in Israel, he was on that first year. And so he kind of took me under his wing. And then again, my third year, the COVID year, he was also on the team and he joined us. So I spent a lot of time with Joe and I've hung out with him a lot. And that's like, a big brother for me. So, I obviously recommended him to my mom last year and we kind of just talk about ideas and different guys. And if she hears a name, she shoots it over to me. I let her know what I think. And I think this year with the whole like Glen thing, I had played with Glen in Israel, actually on that team with Joe, my rookie year. And so
that's a
we
nice
were on
team.
the same team. It was crazy. It was a really good team. We actually won the cup and it was an insane team. So Glen was on that team with us and he was just so good. And so when I knew that she was thinking about drafting or taking me and like we talked about playing, I don't know, Glen's name just got brought up and it was just like a no-brainer. Like he's so good. Obviously you saw the first game. He's just incredibly talented. He plays with it almost looks like he's playing so free that it's, it could be reckless, but at the same time, it just works. So it's really, it's a blessing to have him and it's good to be back playing with him.
Yeah, he's got some ridiculous highlights in his time playing over Israel on YouTube. Like just kind of watching some of his highlights before the season started, but like you said, like just kind of playing, like just I don't know, a risky may be the right term. I mean, sometimes there was one play like where he got a rebound and just kind of dribbled around a little bit, decided to take it behind the 3-point line, turn around, just shot it, and you're like, traditionally you probably wouldn't take that shot, but for him, it's just like it made sense and it went in, so that's pretty crazy. And obviously your recommendations have been good. I mean, like Dusan, obviously the captain now, was really good. I don't know if you necessarily recommended him or.
That was her. That was her doing right there.
Okay. That was pretty bold of her too, because like historically, like a lot of bigs go in the first round, but she was just kind of like, nah, I'm going to take who I want to take, who the team needs.
I mean, she definitely has a tendency to shoot outside the box. But I mean, at the same point, it's like when you logically think about it, like, why wouldn't she take him? He's like one of the best 3-on-3 players in the world.
Yeah, no, like that's the weird part, because like the year prior, and maybe everyone knew, but like he was drafted. It was just like in the third round. And I don't know if everyone knew like FIBA sanctions were upon him, but yeah, I mean, like obviously it made sense. And then like Joe was really good in his 4 games before he got hurt. But kind of a new look power team. You along with Glen and Nicholas are 3 new additions to the team. But why did you decide to play this year? I mean, I know the age limit recently lowered to 22, maybe like last year, maybe even the year prior. But what made you decide to play this year?
I think it's just something that me and my mom, I don't know, we've talked about it in like a joking way before. And I guess I just felt like, I don't know, I got to play against, this season was my first year playing in the G League and getting to play against like NBA experience, NBA guys, NBA level guys. And to get that experience and to play on the court and to adjust to the, to the 3-point line. I mean, that's a heave, bro. Like it's a way further shot than overseas. So just to adjust, and I don't know, it just felt like the right time. I think with guys that she might have wanted this year not being available, I think it was not like a alternative type, but I think it was just more of a reason to do that. And it worked out well in the first game. And I think that, I think that at this point, I understood how the big three was played, and I had seen it enough that I felt like there's stuff that guys aren't doing that I feel like I could help her and just help power win. So I feel like it'd be a cool story.
Yeah,
And
plus
and it's just like it's not a chance to play in another like unbelievable league run by Ice Cube, and you get to play against these NBA guys. Like it's kind of a no brainer.
yeah, you would think that, but sometimes it doesn't always feel like that. Like I try to like people that are like, I'm trying to get into watch the league. It's just like I'm like trying to show them highlights from this weekend. It's like, why would you not watch this? But sometimes other people you gotta like knock on the head a couple more times for them to actually get it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, like unbelievable like first game and uh I feel like within the community, maybe more so like some fans or like spectators, but I even feel like maybe like rumbles throughout the league. There was a lot of questions of like, oh, he only got drafted because his mom's a coach there, and like he's in maybe for like a rude awakening or what's to come against some of these other guys. But like obviously we saw what you were able to do in the first game and assert yourself. But like, does that bother you at all, or do you feel like you kind of walked into the league knowing you would need to have a little bit of a chip on your shoulder, or how do you feel walking into week one?
I mean, like obviously I knew there were gonna be rumblings of that too, but at the same point, it's like in my mind, I mean, I've played against a lot of these younger dudes that they brought in the league, like Deshaun Stevens, Stacey Davis. I played with Glen Rice, Zach Henry. I played like these are guys that I'll have respect for, like mad respect for as basketball players. But I'm right there with like you know what I'm saying. Like when
Yeah,
we've played overseas, like we both are really talented. We're all really talented. Like there's no pack. You know what I mean? So I feel
yeah.
like if they're in the league too, like great. This is maybe you know what I mean. Like it's
Uh-huh.
I don't know. It's just that was kind of my thought process, like of that, because that's all you can base it off of guys that you played. I said they're going to do well in the league, so I think I'm going to do well in the league. So, and that's just like my thought on it. And I don't know. I guess I really don't like. I don't know. I don't really worry about stuff. I just go out and play. I think that my game is really like instinctual, and I think that my instincts are the best part of my game. And I think that in Big Three, even more than 5-on-5, your instincts show up because like Big Three or 5-on-5, you're running up and down. You have time to think. Time to what are you gonna do here? Da, da, da. In the Big Three, it's like you step on the court and you're right. Like the first play I got in, I inbounded it to Royce, and I stepped on the court and I was kind of like waiting to see, what are we gonna call? And Royce is like ball screen, and it was just like you know what I mean, like the first thing, and it was
Yeah.
just like you got to step in and be like ready to make a move, ready to make a down screen, an action, something. And I think that I do best when I'm playing that way, because of the speed, because of the decisiveness. And so I think that plays in, and I don't know, it helped me in game one.
Yeah, and you make an interesting point there too. It's like people might not necessarily be familiar with your name, but like they're also not necessarily familiar with like maybe like a Stacey Davis or a Sec Henry, but wouldn't make
Right.
those same criticisms because they don't have a family member that might be coaching in the league. I think a lot of people say the same thing about Adam Dressler, like being the commissioner's son, but he just helped in, he did his part and helped his team win, get a win over the enemies. So it's just
That's
like,
what I'm saying. Yeah. And plus also it's like, I don't really, I mean, with all due
yeah,
respect, I don't really care what
no, I feel
people who are
that.
judging on, you know what I'm saying? Judging me
No,
on
no,
the
I
league.
definitely
Because
feel
it's
that.
like it's a different game. It's a different I don't know. Until you get in between the lines, I think that does a lot of the talking, and so it's cool. But it's like it's at the end of the day, it's like we're all competing out there, and it's just cool to play against, these NBA legends, guys that you look up to on the TV. But I'm 27. I'm at the, not the, hopefully not the peak of my game, but I'm getting there, and no, I definitely feel like I can hang with anybody.
Yeah, no doubt. And you definitely proved that. And like, I told you this before, but like you're just feel for the not even just the 3-on-3 game, but like fireball three in general was very well known. Like as soon as you stepped on the court, just some of the things you're doing, like you're chasing rebounds off like shooting like a 3-pointer. Like I don't think everyone necessarily does that. Like maybe their first reaction to like take a back step sometimes,
Right.
like in transition, just like different things like that. Like it was very well like noticeable and just feel like I think at least from my perspective and some of the people I speak with, about the league, we all knew that you probably have like really high IQ being the son of a coach. But do you feel like having that high IQ and just like you said, being instinctual is like one of the like better parts about your game, or, when you're playing out there?
Yeah, I mean, I've always said like passing is the best part of my game, but I think that like passing is tied into instincts and being able to,
Yeah.
Assume, what I mean, just kind of predict when the next guy's coming, where they're going to be, da 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 da. Like I had a first pass where they doubled Glen, they blitzed Glen, they threw it over the top to me. I caught it with one hand, and like I knew Dwan was coming over, and like instinctually, like you didn't have time to think and be like, oh yeah. But it's just so yeah. I think that's the best part of my game. I've always said that, just my instincts. Maybe that is from growing up around a coach. I think it's just a lot of it is at Richmond, my coach, Coach Mooney, we ran the Princeton, and that's just like read and react and just instinctual playing and just make the next play, and the next action. And I think that really is just like I've built on it and kind of understood the game. And I think once you understand it, it becomes a lot easier.
Man, I mean, that's like a really good trait, obviously, to have. Like I said, that like it's crazy to see how well you adjusted to the game like multiple times throughout the weekend. Not like I'm one of those guys that's like going back and watching all these games just to rewatch them, kind of like you, not for scouting purposes or anything, but just to rewatch because I'm excited about the league coming back. And like there's multiple times like dudes will catch a rebound after a missed shot and it doesn't hit the rim, and it's just like they're running out with it because that's like what they're thinking. That's just how they're used to playing. But for you to like come in and like take advantage of that, like a big reason in my opinion why you guys won. Obviously you also had the game winner for sure, but yeah, like want to talk a little bit about your team in general. Like you kind of touched on at the top, but just like a little bit of a different look power team, like in a good way. Like you guys got a little bit younger. I think you guys are a little bit more set up if their injuries do come at play, which unfortunately, like this power squad has like dealt with that last year and then 2019 as well. We're able to fight through it in 2019, not necessarily last year, but like what do you think about the team overall? You mentioned Glen being ridiculous, which by the way, I've seen your highlights too. Your highlights are pretty up there as well. So like a couple of you guys got some crazy highlights on that team, but just like the additions of Nicolos and like, the rest of your squad, what do you think of this group and how the chemistry and fit is so far?
Yeah, well, I appreciate it, man. And no, I mean, I think that it's just it is different squad. I think that even though like I don't know, like Power's always been a physical team, and even Catino was saying that. And even though we aren't necessarily huge, like we're all tall, we're all pretty big, 6'7" and above.
But in the past, y'all had like
Cat's big.
Yeah, in the past, y'all have like Birdman and Big Baby, like the two big lineup and stuff, which is really successful. So yeah, I feel that.
Right. So it's like now I think it's even more so like Glen, even though he's not big, he's big into the post-up game. You know what I mean? So like you saw it last game, like he's just so good at like getting people off balance, getting to his float, get to his floater. And he's really unguardable. And so to have a guy like him, I think that it just changes. It allows, when you have a scorer like him, it allows everybody to kind of focus on him. And that allows me to get open shots. That allows Royce to catch the ball with his man in help. And when his man's in help and Royce catches the ball, that means Royce is coming downhill. And Royce is downhill, that's a scary sight. And so it's like, it allows him, instead of guys meeting him and kind of riding the whole way to the basket, he can get downhill, he can get to his layups, he can kind of do what he does. And I think if I just keep making those little hustle plays, that's kind of the, an X factor for us, because Glen's going to be consistent. And then, Cat is just a veteran. Like Cat, even though, down the stretch, I think it was me, Royce, and Glen a lot of the time. Cat is really like a coach in a player, like all in one. And so he's telling us what we need to prepare for in practice. He's telling us just everything that we need to be aware of for the Big Three, because he's a vet. He's played in the league for so long. And he's done a great job of leading us. So I think like that's an invaluable role for him, or it's just so crucial to have for us. To have a veteran, because like the three of me, Glen, and Nick didn't know what to expect at all.
Yeah.
Like what we had no idea in the locker room. So Royce is Royce, and he's a staple, and Royce is awesome. We all love Royce. But I think that like Cat being that leader is big for us, and us all having such respect for him. And then Nick's he's a versatile big man who can finish like he did last game. He can shoot the ball. I mean, he'll have games where he'll hit 4 threes. Like guys don't want to step out and guard big men like that.
Yeah.
So I think he's going to really be crucial for us. So I think that we have really, really guys who are very opposite that kind of make a perfect 3-on-3 team. And I don't know if that's what my mom envisioned, but it kind of worked out that way.
Yeah, no doubt. Like just a lot of like high IQ players, honestly, like a lot of really good facilitators on the team, and just know what you have the leaders like Kat and Royce to kind of guide you guys in the right light. And then you guys got a guy who's in the isolation game, like just nuts. Like he's going to be able to beat anybody one-on-one. Like I didn't recently know this, but he was like the first regional winner in Tracy McGrady's new league, in that one-on-one league. Yeah. It's crazy. Like,
yeah, he's a legend. I'm telling you, the best player I've ever played.
For sure. Like I'm excited to see how he continues to develop in this league, just like kind of make his mark. There's a lot of really good players in this league, obviously, as you've seen this weekend. Want to quickly talk about your coach, your mom. I mean, obviously she's a legend. She's blazed a lot of trails, been a pioneer within the sport, but I kind of want to take it back to like 2018, where she continued to do so, you know, being the first woman to coach a men's professional team, going on to not only win Coach of the Year, but win a championship that year as well with, Corey Maggette and Kat and Quinn Richardson, all those guys. Kind of as her son, like, what can you say about just like her career and kind of that moment, honestly, of just like after winning the championship and realizing that, yeah, she's added another thing to her resume?
I mean, my mom's had a long storied career, and, I'm so proud of her for what she's done. I just think that, just there's been so much change that's happened through her 60 years that it's a completely different game, day, like everything in life. And for her to evolve and adapt and stick with the times and just be consistent and be consistent, I think more so just to the game in whatever capacity it can be, as far as playing, coaching, managing, helping, scouting. So I think that it's, when you talk about just like another accomplishment on the, it's a huge one. I know it's one of her most favorite of her career. But I think that it's just a tribute to just her hard work. Like, I check my email right now, I'll have the entire scouting report for Three-Headed Monster already, like done, like full page stuff on what they do, what they did last time. And then like we have an app we can go on and watch the plays and all this stuff. So it's cool. It's cool that she cares this much, and she's invested in us. And we came out here for a training camp, like a 1 day, stay the night, watch the finals together, bond, practice, fly together to the game, practice 2 times before the game. It's really, really, I think it was very professional and structured. So credit to her for that. And it's been really cool getting to play for her and not just see it from a kind of her son's standpoint, but see it from a player's standpoint. So it's a different kind of thing, and it's really a cool kind of moment to see.
Yeah, I'm just like thinking about how cool that is. I'm not trying to express myself too much because that's like really dope. I think for the evolution of this league, right? Like I think like she's really, all the time we talk about how Power has like the best culture. Like they've really set the standards and the bar high, like along with her and Coutinho and even Corey, like being there. Like I think they did a good job of like setting that bar high and setting a strong culture and kind of allowing, like we're going to take this really seriously. We're going to have scouting reports, prepare and be ready for anybody and everybody weekend in and weekend out. And I feel like a lot of like what people are doing today and like kind of taking on and implementing some of those things within their own teams is a lot of like because of what she kind of brought into this league alongside, the rest of those captains and stuff. So that's like really dope to hear. And like, I don't know, that's got to be a really cool, feeling for not only you, but like the rest of the team as well. Just like, I don't know, it's kind of hard for me to put like words can't really explain
I feel you, man. No,
how it's cool. It's just like unmatched, like that.
It is.
That culture.
It's something beyond words, honestly. It's just a feeling that it's I don't know, everything kind of lines up. You know what I mean? And it's just like her passion and her family, and I know she's really happy about it. I know that I don't know. I think it's something that we've talked about for a while. I know that she's had it, and I know that she's believed in me long enough. I think it was more so me just ready to meet that expectation and ready to jump in, because this is my off season, right? So it's like technically my off season, right? So I'll go back and play starting up in September again next year.
Yeah.
And so right after this season ends. So it's just to make this, and I think that's why I did it, because it is such a special moment and special thing. And I don't know if there's going to ever be a son to play for his mom again, and that's in a professional league, and that's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, she was probably thinking too, like, I'm willing to do anything to get back to the playoffs. I mean, that was the first year that they missed last year, and I think a lot of that was more of a just missing key pieces, like for the second straight year, like time in and time out, and just like even being able to put yourself in a position to even compete again, for the playoffs, despite all the injuries, just like speaks to, it's like a testament to all the preparation she does, regardless of who's going to be suiting up week in and week out. So that's really cool. I don't know. I really maybe I just like fanboy over the league too much, but I really think this league is here to stay. And it's really cool to people like hear stories about people taking it seriously, even though, they already are, but like even more specifics, and just see, how just see other teams be like kind of taking that in as well and doing all that. So
yeah, no, it is. It's neat to see what it was to what it is now.
Yeah, 100%. Couple more questions. So you guys recently just got the win over Tri-State, won by 15 points. Again, congrats on that big win. Now you're 1-0, but like you said, you got to get ready for the next game against three-headed monsters, a team that came back after facing a little bit of a deficit and lost in kind of a stunner or in like the big three overtime, essentially. I guess kind of let's start there. I mean, like, three-headed monsters looks a little weird without Reggie Evans, probably the best big man in this league. But like, what do you feel like this team needs to do or take away from last game and needs to apply to this game in order for you guys to continue to, stay undefeated?
I think the ball movement was really good last game. That's the scary part, is we all have such great passers. Like, we're literally 1 through 5 are elite passers. Like, Royce, I think led his team and maybe the Big 12 in assists as a big man. Glen averaged 8 assists a game when I played them in Israel. Like, I'm great passer, Coutinho, Nick too. So it's like we all have a great feel for it. So if we can keep being unselfish and just share the ball and keep building a feel, because unfortunately it's not like we're meeting up and scrimmaging. You know what I mean? So it's like those games are only times that we really get to play together. And so I think that I think it's just got to keep watching film and just building off what our plays are. And I think as we watch film and spend more time together, we can talk about, hey, I like the slip, hey, I like the flare, hey, I like going downhill, hey, I like this. And so just keep hammering in our culture and kind of what our strengths are. And I think we'll be fine. I don't know. I think that the key is to not overthink it and just play, because you only have 14 seconds. So if you try to overthink it, then you mess up and you're sitting at 8 seconds. Now you have to ball at the top of the key, and it's no good.
Yeah.
That's when prone to air balls, prone to turnovers, stuff like that. So I think the key is just, like I said, when you're a smart passer, that means that you have good instincts for the game. All these guys have good instincts. So I think if we just keep sticking to that and just not overthinking things, and I think that's where we're going to really succeed.
Yeah, 100%. No, I'm excited to look forward to that matchup. And like, I was just thinking like, you guys are all great passers. Like, it's crazy to think like Royce a couple of years ago, like almost had a triple double in the game that goes to 50. Like, I think he was 1 assist off. And that's
really,
yeah. I'm trying to think. I think it was against like Ghost Ballers or something, but he had like 11, 10, and 9 or something ridiculous like that. Yeah. So, I mean, and then all you guys like adding in like your facilitating abilities, like that's a crazy team, like really is. Yeah. Last thing I think I want to ask is just, what do you think about the league in general? Like after the opening weekend, like I don't know if you had time to kind of like look at I mean, I don't know if you got to watch some of the games while you were there or go back and watch some of the highlights, but the league looks ridiculous. Like the talent level is absurd right now. Like what are your thoughts on this league? And are there any games like you have circled on your calendar and like, oh, that's going to be a fun team to play?
So to start, no, I think the talent level is crazy. Like me obviously it's different than me being like a different one of these rookies, because maybe a Sec Henry and I don't know this, Deshaun Stevens, or maybe this guy or that guy hasn't watched the Big Three before, right? This is kind of their first year with it. So it's like, for me, having seen it and seen the talent level, like it's crazy to see, maybe not the big time names are there that you would say, like AI, like they had one year, you know what I'm saying? They had Corey Maggette, but like younger guys who, like Dusan is an elite, you know what I mean? Like one of the best in the world at 3-on-3. And, you got Isaiah Alston, who's a 7-foot guard, who's been a legend in Dallas since I can remember. So it's just like you said, the talent level, there's at least one for every team that's like, okay, we got to circle this guy. And I think that, and the second part of the question is, no, I have not circled anything on my calendar about who we're playing. I'm just worried about the first game. All I can think about was the first game playing, and each game, it's like football. It's like if you ask the Cowboys, I'm sure it's such a dogfight every week that you can't look ahead, because it's a game to 50. It's not like it's a best of 7 series where it's like, okay, the best team will probably win. It's like, if you don't shoot well, you turn it over a few times, you're down 10. Now they have control of the game, and that's that. So it's no, I'm very much focused on 3-headed monsters, and that's all I got time for. That's all Coach will allow us to focus on.
Nah, that's smart. That's good on her end. And one thing I wanted to add, like everyone talks about the physicality of this league. Was that felt in that first week?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely more physical than like regular basketball, because it's like it's 3-on-3. There's not as much up and down,
For
like
sure.
when you're in a smaller environment, it's easier to hit around,
like
and
close
stuff
quarters
like that.
and stuff. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so I definitely felt that. Yeah, I think that I'll feel it more as time goes on. I think that they were a perimeter oriented team a little bit too, and like I played against DeJuan, like you saw, like his one dribble pull up is disgusting. Like it's every time just cash. It's awesome. So it's like Garland Green's a good shooter, so I think that their strengths are shooting. So I think that the physicality and stuff will kind of come when we get a different style of team. Like when I face a Royce, we don't have the one in the league, but a Royce White type, or more of a bruiser. But I definitely saw it in the other games, and I felt it a little bit down low banging with Larry Sanders. But I'm expecting it. I'm expecting a 3-headed monster.
Yeah, and obviously you want to face a team at their best, but like, glad that Reggie Evans is probably not part of the equation. At least this year
wouldn't be ideal.
Nah,
no,
that's a big dude. That's a physical guy for sure.
Yeah, well, the best this year.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, I'm excited to see like how your team finishes, continues on in the season. Like I said, it looks like you're one of the favorites right now, contenders. The team looks really good. So best of luck the rest of the year. Appreciate the time today. Last thing I want to do is be able to like open up the floor to you, where people can, follow you at, or do you have anything going on in terms of like nonprofit foundation, upcoming event, anything that you want to kind of plug here? I just want to give you the opportunity to do so.
Yeah, no. So, I mean, obviously I'll have this on my social media too. My social media is TJ Cline 6 on both Instagram and Twitter. But yeah, we just opened up the Nancy Lieberman TJ Cline Basketball Academy down in Prosper. We teamed up with company APEC, who we've worked out for. Their PT is second to none. We have some really good guys, some former Big 3 guys. Corey Jefferson's up there. We have a lot of pros, especially there's a lot of football guys that run up there on the other side. And so I think that that's just something we're building. Go check it out. It's on my Instagram. But the Nancy Lieberman TJ Cline Basketball Academy. We're just trying to help the kids have a court out in Prosper. There's not a lot of places out there that's a gym that they can train and get better, and that'll lead up to our basketball camps in the summer. So just all that information will be on my Instagram. But yeah, that's if I had to give a plug, we're really excited about that. So to give that a check out if you're in Dallas.
Yeah, no doubt. That sounds really cool. Yeah. Definitely to our listeners, make sure you check that out if you are in Dallas. And TJ, I just want to say again, appreciate the time. Best of luck the rest of the year. And yeah, we'll see how the season caps off. But thanks for your time again.
Oh, awesome. Thanks for having me, brother. I really appreciate it. And keep up the good work. We appreciate all the coverage and the stuff that you do for the Big Three. It's not unnoticed.
Man, I appreciate it.
All right, my man.
All
Be
right.
good.
Yeah, you as well.
Talk to you.